Lollipop Chainsaw was originally released in 2012 for the Xbox 360 and PS3. 2024 saw the release of a remaster, giving many players the opportunity to play the game for the first time. I loved the game when it first came out, and was super excited to be able to play it again in the repop version. So make sure to grab your pom-poms and chainsaws as we dive into the story of Lollipop Chainsaw. We join our hero, Juliet Starling, on the morning of her 18th birthday. She tells us about her family, her older sister Cordelia, who won a gold medal in riflery, and has secret meetings with people Juliet assumes are college scouts, her younger sister Rosalind, who just got her license, and her parents who are still very much in love. Juliet's boyfriend Nick is set to meet her family for the first time that afternoon at Juliet's birthday party, and Juliet is freaked out about him finding out about her family, who are all zombie hunters. While stressing about Nick's possible reaction to this news, Juliet realizes that she is running late to meet him before school. Nick is waiting for her at the school fountain, and he doesn't realize that there are zombies approaching him until he is surrounded. Juliet rushes out the door to meet Nick, coming across a horde of zombies on the way. We also see that some of Juliet's insecurities may be justified, since in Repop they can't even spell her name correctly. Arriving at the school parking lot, Juliet finds a survivor, and she kills the nearby zombies to allow him to be evacuated by a rescue helicopter. The first of many survivors Juliet will be able to help evacuate. Juliet makes it through the school gate and rushes to the fountain looking for Nick. As she does not see a zombie approaching her from behind. Nick appears and tackles the zombie, knocking it to the ground and trying to hold it down. As he does so, the zombie is able to bite his arm, infecting him. Juliet quickly dispatches the zombie and rushes to Nick's side. He can feel the infection inside him and realizes he is turning. He expresses regret at ruining Juliet's birthday, and he tells her that he loves her. Juliet tells Nick that she loves him too, as she brings the chainsaw down on him. Nick loses consciousness, and when he comes to, he realizes that Juliet has cut his head off and brought him into the school. Juliet explains that she performed a magical ritual on his head to keep him alive. She also now confesses to Nick that she is a zombie hunter, as he tries to warn her that there are more zombies approaching. Juliet attaches Nick's head to her belt and eliminates the zombies. Making their way through the school, they find that almost all the students have been infected, along with the faculty. There are a few survivors who Juliet helps as she comes across them, but on the whole, things in the school are just as bad as it had been outside. Juliet does discover that Nick is able to take control of headless zombie bodies, and he can use a zombie's strength to move heavy objects. The police apparently tried to respond to the incident at the school, but the officers became infected themselves, though retain the ability to use guns, including against their zombie comrades, proving that even having undeath in common won't save you from police brutality. In the heart of the school, Juliet finds the gym, where zombie basketball is the sport of the day, and she needs to score goals by sending zombie heads through the hoop to be able to move on. Leaving the gym, Juliet continues on and comes across her sensei, Morikawa. Morikawa Sensei tells Juliet and Nick that something has gone wrong on a cosmic scale. He explains that the universe is composed of 3 dimensions: the land beyond words, the rotten world, and Earth. There are dimensional walls between each, and using a combination of black magic and explosives, someone has cracked the wall between Earth and the rotten world, causing the gases of the rotten world to seep into Earth. As people inhale these gases, it caused them to transform into the undead. Morikawa Sensei theorizes that whoever did it could be trying to open a permanent gate between Earth and the rotten world, which would be catastrophic. There is no cure for the zombie infection, and all Juliet and Morikawa Sensei can do is kill the undead and try to stop the person responsible. Morikawa believes this person is either in the cafeteria or the courtyard, and he tasks Juliet with looking in the cafeteria while he investigates the courtyard. Juliet drops down into the cafeteria and finds a strange assortment of explosives and explosive canisters, arranged in a birthday cake shape, with a sign wishing her a happy birthday. Juliet clears zombies from the cafeteria who are just trying to light those candles, but once she has done so, the doors open and explosive wheelbarrow zombies are wheeled in, and the mound of explosives is detonated anyway. Juliet runs for the door and makes it outside just as explosions rock the building. Morikawa-sensei appears to be thrown by the explosion and slams into Juliet. As they look up, they see a figure standing atop a statue. Juliet recognizes this person as someone she went to school with, Swan, and Morikawa-sensei says that he is the one trying to create a gate between here and the rotten world. Swan blames the world, government, and society for making his life hell, and he intends on returning the favor by bringing hell to earth. Swan calls on malicious lords, invoking their dark forces and declaring himself god of this realm. He proclaims the ritual will commence, and he calls for the dark purveyors to appear. As Swan utters an incantation, Morikawa-sensei launches himself at Swan in an attempt to stop him, but he is intercepted by glowing orbs which appear swirling around Swan. Morikawa-sensei is thrown back down and collapses on the ground. A voice calls from one of the orbs asking if Swan is the one who called them there. He confirms he is and says he is their master. He commands them to initiate the pawn into the ritual and rot every living thing in the school along the way. Another voice from an orb notices Juliet and can tell from her smell that she is a zombie hunter. Swan again calls for the ritual to commence, and one of the orbs crashes to the ground before Juliet, revealing Zed, the dark purveyor who embodies punk rock. He tells Juliet to piss off and launches her into a junkyard, where a full-blown concert stage has been constructed, and Zed performs for his lifeless audience. Juliet fights her way to the stage to take on Zed. She finds that Zed is no ordinary zombie, and even chainsawing him in half once is not enough to put him down, and she needs to do it 2 more times before he is finally pulled back into the rotten world, though not without saying some incantation as he goes. Mios vita, rege, pro nefario coepto. My life, king, for your dark enterprise. Once Zed is gone, Morikawa-sensei limps in and tells Juliet that Zed was only the weakest of the dark purveyors, and the other 4 are still out there, and Juliet must kill them all. Morikawa-sensei dies, but not before handing Juliet a present for her birthday. His spirit is then conveyed to the land beyond words. Juliet opens Morikawa-sensei's gift and finds an attachment for her chainsaw, allowing her to do a chainsaw dash. Juliet and Nick heed Morikawa-sensei's instructions and return to the school, with Nick complaining about his status as a disembodied head. As Juliet tries to get him to see the positives of his situation, some drops of blood fall on Nick. Looking up, Nick and Juliet see a flying Viking longship, captained by VK, the dark purveyor embodying Viking rock. VK calls out hello Skraelings, which is a word the Norse used for Native Americans and some other non-Viking groups. Juliet also notices that her older sister Cordelia is holding onto the ship and calls out to her. Cordelia waves and says she's off to kick some zombie butt. She throws a gift for Juliet, which starts parachuting towards the school. To get into the school, Juliet has to use her new chainsaw dash ability and take down a number of zombies standing in her way. Juliet tells Nick that her priorities are first to find her gift from Cordelia, and secondly to save Cordelia. Once inside the school, Juliet finds that there are at least a few survivors who have not been turned into zombies. Making it to the roof, Juliet uses her chainsaw dash to make it across the rooftops, but finds herself having to play another round of zombie basketball. With this challenge complete, Juliet moves on and pulls through the roof of what must be one of many gyms which support San Romero High School's bloated athletics program. After taking out the zombies there and getting back outside, Juliet is finally able to track down Cordelia's gift, a chainsaw blaster that she immediately puts to good use in a game of zombie baseball, shooting down the other team while Nick uses a zombie body to run the bases. Once Nick and Juliet win, Nick comments that he thinks the ship went to the school's unrealistically giant swimming pool. Juliet agrees and the two make their way there, finding that their guess was correct. Cordelia is there and greets them, pleased to meet Nick for the first time, and she is a big fan of the whole no-body thing. Before Juliet and Cordelia have much of a chance to catch up, the longship lifts off again, and Cordelia has to launch Juliet up to it. On the ship, Juliet challenges VK. Like Zed, VK is not super concerned about being cut in half, but unlike Zed, he doesn't feel too inclined to put himself back together. Juliet has to defeat both halves individually, and then also cut his head in half, in order to finally put him down. As his master dies, his pet, Humil, makes a last-ditch attack on Juliet, but she takes him down with a single kick. Like Zed, VK also says the phrase, Mias vita, rege, pro nefario coepta, as he passes. With its captain being no more, the longship falls out of the sky, crashing outside O'Bannon Farm. Juliet was knocked out in the crash, and she has a nightmare that a complete Nick has turned into a zombie and attacks her. Juliet is woken up by her younger sister Rosalind, calling for her to watch out. Rosalind has come to save Juliet, but has lost control of the bus she is driving and can't stop it. Like Cordelia, Rosalind is similarly thrilled to meet Nick, and is also delighted at him being just ahead. As Rosalind drives off, she throws Juliet a birthday gift, a Nick popper, which she can use to shoot Nick's head. Juliet starts to follow Rosalind and finds that the farm is also infested with zombies. She catches up to the bus for a moment and helps Rosalind get past some zombies who are trying to destroy the bus, but she is then thrown off. She then hears the dark purveyor of this region singing, and sees a giant psychedelic mushroom, which she cuts in half. Juliet hallucinates a monstrous chicken, before seeing a version of the bus. Juliet comes to, sitting on a combine harvester, which she uses to mow down zombies in the field. After mulching 100 zombies, Juliet finds herself coming to on a different part of the farm. Fortunately for one scarecrowed survivor, she wakes up just in time to save him. Juliet finds the bus again, and this time must save it from bomb-wearing zombies who try to approach it. Rosalind drives off again without Juliet, and Juliet sees another mushroom. Having enjoyed her last hallucination so much, she decides it's a good idea to cut this mushroom open as well, this time hallucinating 3 monstrous chickens. She then again comes to in a harvester, and turns another 300 zombies into fertilizer. Like before, she then wakes up at a different part of the farm, and sees the bus drive off again. Nick is feeling the effects of all the drugs, and comments he feels dizzy, just like when Father O'Malley roofied him. Juliet is able to catch up to the bus, and this time Rosalind is able to stop it. She tells Juliet that the bus had broken down, but she fixed it. Juliet is suspicious of this, as there is no way her little sister would know how to fix a bus. Juliet sees Rosalind's appearance shift, becoming more zombie-like, before Juliet is transported into a strange arena built from buses. There, she finally meets the psychedelic rocker dark purveyor Mariska, who has taken Rosalind. Juliet has to shoot Mariska down in order to be able to cut her in half. With Mariska, this just results in there being 2 more of her, and Mariska voluntarily pulls each of her halves in part again to create 2 more. Juliet has to then shoot down all 4 to finally cut the last in half. This just results in the same though. 1 becomes 2, 2 becomes 4. And this time, 4 becomes 8. Again, Juliet shoots them all down and cuts the last one in half again. This time, Mariska can't recover and passes on, also saying the incantation, Mias vita, rege, pro nefario coepto. With Mariska disposed of, Juliet finds that she never actually left the crash site. She receives a call from the 4th dark purveyor, Josie, who reveals that he has Rosalind, meaning that she was very likely never at the farm at all. Josie tells Juliet that she needs to win a game against him at the Fulci Fun Center. As Juliet is about to head off to the center, her father Gideon arrives on a motorbike. Together they head off to rescue Rosalind and take down Josie. On the way, Gideon and Nick get acquainted, though Gideon does express some concern about Nick's ability to contribute to the family business, given his current state. At the fun center, Juliet lays out the plan. She'll go in the front while Gideon goes in the back. Juliet will draw the zombies' attention while Gideon gets to Rosalind. Before putting the plan into effect, Gideon gives Juliet a birthday gift, a helmet for Nick, to allow her to do a Nick shoot ability. Heading into the fun center, Juliet finds some zombies playing the arcade games, and unnecessarily ruins their whole day, before a survivor rushes out of the elevator pursued by zombies. After saving him, Juliet uses the elevator to make her way upstairs. She then finds herself in a version of Pac-Man played by Josie. Juliet must find 8 keys while avoiding the Dokuro Man enemies controlled by Josie. Beating the game, Juliet finds herself back in the real world, where she takes down some more zombies before finding a headless cheerleader zombie, which Nick uses to give Juliet a boost up to the balconies, where she saves 2 more survivors before using a pole to get back to another part of the arcade. There she finds a machine which sucks her into a different game, where she has to make her way up a building while taking down enemies. Beating this game, Juliet finds herself on a stage with a pole, which she uses to take down numerous zombies. She then finds another arcade machine, this time taking her into a game where she has to kill dancing zombies. Beating this game, Juliet emerges onto a roof where she has to kill some non-dancing zombies and shoot down a zombie-piloted rescue copter. Finding yet another arcade machine, she then uses a gondola to scale a building. Making it to the top, Juliet is back on the real roof once more and makes her way into a room called Dance Planet. Inside, funk-inspired dark purveyor Josie is playing for some zombies. Gideon has also made it inside Dance Planet and indicates for Juliet not to give him away. Juliet demands that Josie give her Rosalind back, but Josie says that if Juliet wants her sister, she will need to play the game. He then boards a retro flying saucer and Juliet has to shoot him down. She cuts him in half and he abandons his legs, torso flying up through the ceiling. Juliet follows him onto a much larger flying saucer. There she must disable Josie's shields in order to be able to get to him. However, he warns her that if she kills him, she will never see Rosalind again. Unluckily for Josie, however, Gideon has already made his way to Rosalind, and he blows up the saucer, escaping with Rosalind and leaving Juliet to put Josie down to that familiar incantation. Mias vita, rege, proneferio coepto. Back on the ground, Juliet meets up with her sisters and father at the cathedral. Gideon lays out a plan where Juliet attacks from the front, and the 3 others cut in at various points. Cordelia takes the roof and covers Juliet until she runs out of ammo. Juliet makes it into a part of a cathedral with a wrecking ball swinging around, unfortunately controlled by Rosalind. Rosalind does help Juliet though by bringing down a couple of walls to help her progress. Juliet makes it to a lift and has to kill falling zombies in order to keep the lift under the maximum weight limit. She then makes it through the rest of the construction area to find an almost finished section of the cathedral full of zombies. After Juliet takes them all down, Gideon appears and sets off a somewhat excessive chain reaction in order to break a hole in the floor. Juliet drops down through the hole into another arena and is greeted by Swan, who is impressed that she made it. As Juliet asks how Swan could have done this to everyone, the last Dark Purveyor, Lewis Legend, appears. Lewis is just a straight-up rock-and-roller zombie who attacks Juliet from his motorbike. Juliet knocks him off the bike and cuts him off at the knees. He is unconcerned and transforms his motorbike into a giant robot elephant. Like zombie-like elephant, Juliet is able to cut off its legs as well, but Lewis keeps coming. She hacks away at the elephant, taking off its arms followed by its tusks, before she is able to both get to Lewis again and mess up his elephant for good. Mias vita, rege, pronefario, coepto. Swan then comes down to talk to Juliet and says she did everything as he expected. She was part of the ritual. A pawn, Juliet, had to sacrifice 5 pre-selected zombies who must each utter the sacred words at the point of their deaths. Mias vita, rege, pronefario coepto. Juliet asks why Swan is doing all of this, and he tells her it is because Juliet is just like everyone else. He says she had pretended to be different, but she wasn't. With that, Swan blows his own head off. His disembodied head laughs, and he tells her that this is the real end to everything. He says that this school, this world, deserves to be destroyed for rejecting him and ridiculing him, and so he will make this rotten world even more rotten. With that, Swan is pulled into a writhing mass of flesh, which turns into the zombie of zombies, Killer Billy. He really is the king. With Killer Billy's appearance, Juliet receives a call from Morikawa Sensei, who tells her it's impossible for him to rest in peace with all of this going on. He intends to guide her on what she must do, but first, Juliet will need to get close to Killer Billy. To do this, she has to make it down a destroyed road, while Killer Billy hurls cars at her. This is rather kind of him actually, as Juliet is able to use the cars to bridge the gaps in the road. After Juliet dodges buildings which are falling across the road, she receives another call from Morikawa, who again tells her to follow the path to Killer Billy. As she gets closer to him, Killer Billy starts firing lasers from his eyes, causing Juliet to have to take shelter behind trucks and debris to avoid it. Finally, Juliet makes it down the final stretch and finds herself at Killer Billy's feet. He lifts her up and Juliet fires into his eyes while dodging zombies that he spits from his mouth. After taking enough damage, Killer Billy puts Juliet in his mouth, but she cuts him up and he spits her out. He flings more zombies at her and controls cars so that they try to run her down. Eventually, Killer Billy tries to encage her with his hand, but she cuts off the top of his fingers. Taking her opportunity, Juliet then runs up Killer Billy's arm. She receives another call from Morikawa Sensei, who tells her that a path will open for her, and she will need to go inside of Killer Billy's mouth and into his body. As Juliet makes her way up, Gideon launches himself on a motorbike packed with explosives into Killer Billy's head, blowing a massive hole in the middle of his face. While Juliet is devastated at the apparent loss of her father, Morikawa urges her to go before the hole closes. Juliet goes down Killer Billy's throat and makes her way through Killer Billy's body to the core. There, Morikawa Sensei tells Juliet that they need to send a signal from the core telling the body to self-destruct. Then all of the captured souls will be sent back to the rotten world. To do this, Juliet must connect Nick to Swan's body, but doing so will mean Nick's death. With that, the line to Morikawa Sensei disconnects. Nick tells Juliet that she was right. There was a reason that he was with her, and he is willing to make the sacrifice. So Juliet places his head on Swan's body. Nick detonates, and Killer Billy is destroyed. Nick then hears Morikawa Sensei telling him that because of his sacrifice, the mad feast has come to an end, and the glorious ones have chosen to bless him with a reward. But with this body and that body, unfortunately there has been a small mix-up. Nick wakes up standing on a road. He and Juliet run to each other, but Nick realizes that the mix-up has left him with Morikawa's body. At this point though, Nick figures that is pretty much good enough. Gideon, Cordelia and Rosalind have all made it as well, and the whole group heads back to the Starling house for Juliet's birthday celebration. There, Juliet's mother is in the kitchen. If Juliet managed to save all the survivors she came across during her fight against the Dark Purveyors, the family will all sit down to enjoy the birthday cake Juliet's mother prepared. However, if Juliet failed to save even one of the survivors, then her mother will have become infected, and she will tell them it's time to come in for dinner. And by dinner, she means them. And with that, the story of Lollipop Chainsaw comes to an end. Let me know what you think of the game, and if you preferred the original version or Repop. I'm currently working on a couple more videos on Knights of the Old Republic, and another on Pathologic, which should both be coming out in the next month or so. 2025 will also be the year of much more zombies on my channel, so if that's something that interests you, make sure to subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.